As you guys already probably know, in this webinar, we are going to be delving into the best practices associated with chatbot deployment. So if you've ever used a chatbot before on the web, or even if you're new to the chatbot creation game, you'll know that there are a whole bunch of different platforms out there, a whole bunch of different formats you can use to deploy your chatbots on the web and into your marketing stacks. So we figured we'd host this webinar to clarify where it makes sense for you guys to incorporate chatbots into your marketing stacks in particular. Now, a little bit more about why we chose this topic. When we were brainstorming webinar ideas, we usually think about the sorts of questions that new users, and for that matter, even some more experienced chatbot creators on the TARS platform ask us. And by far, one of the most frequent questions is, where should I deploy my chatbot? Should I use a widget? Should I use a conversational landing page? And then there are a lot of cases where people think that a chatbot widget is the only way to deploy their chatbot, or a conversational landing page is the only way to deploy their chatbot. And we need to sort of educate them that there is another option that might fit their needs a little bit more. So we figured we'd host this session to clarify a lot of those doubts. Now, as always, before we begin with the actual meat and bones of the webinar and get to the topic at hand, I feel like I owe it to the newer attendees on this webinar to introduce ourselves, just so that I don't seem like a disembodied head on the screen telling you what to do. So first of all, as a company, TARS has been around since 2015, so we're coming up to almost 5 years now. I think we've crossed the five-year mark actually, and we've been using conversational tech to help companies boost their conversion rates in that time. Within that broader story, I've been around for about 4 years. I'm a conversational designer and a marketer, so that basically means I help customers build chatbots, and I also make content like this to help other marketers like you guys. You guys build chatbots as well. Now, a slight bragging right, in that time of building chatbots and building content like this, I built over 100 chatbots. A lot of those chatbots have worked out great. We've boosted conversion rates and it's been awesome. But a lot of those chatbots have also not worked. And it's honestly those experiences of having chatbots not work that have taught me a lot about chatbot creation, and it's that knowledge that goes into the creation of these webinars. And with that, we're actually ready for the important stuff. Now, I think a good place to start on this, I think a good place to start on this webinar is to sort of detail out all of the different places where you can deploy a chatbot, and then drill down into each one of those to help you better understand which works best for your particular use case and your particular marketing stack. Now, broadly speaking, there are two types of chatbots that exist on the internet. There are app-based chatbots that live in popular messaging apps like Messenger, Line, Viber, Telegram. Most of the popular messaging apps these days have a bot platform. I think WhatsApp, until recently, was the exception, but they, albeit slowly, have been rolling out some features that allow for automated interactions with users. And of course, the other type of chatbot that we're focusing on in this webinar is web-based chatbots. So that's conversational landing pages, widget chatbots, and we'll get into what those are in a little bit. Now, as I say that web-based chatbots are our focus for today, let's take a couple of minutes to talk about app-based chatbots, because a lot of you guys, I'm sure, have heard a lot about app-based chatbots, especially messenger chatbots. In the world of marketing, there is a lot of buzz. There has been a lot of buzz around messenger chatbots. Maybe not as much as there was in 2016 when they first came out and everyone thought they were going to be the next big thing. But there is still buzz around it. There are still big companies that are doing, awesome companies that are doing work in the space. People like ManyChat and ChatFuel. And I feel like I owe it to you guys to tell you why we're not talking about those sorts of chatbots. And it doesn't have to do only with the fact that we don't really do messenger chatbots at TARS. The primary reason that we don't really want to talk about messenger chatbots in this webinar is because our focus at TARS is lead gen. And we are focused on using chatbots in your marketing stack for lead gen, because that's what we think the killer use case of chatbots are. And app-based chatbots just don't work for lead gen. So fun fact about me, I build a lot of Telegram bots in my free time. I have a bot that keeps track of my to-do lists. I have a bot that gives me the news every day. I have a bot that keeps track of my habits. I even have a bot that helps me journal my thoughts. And the common theme that you'll notice through all of those chatbots is they are recurring use chatbots. They're the sorts of chatbots which you open up every single day and interact with. And that sort of usage pattern doesn't really work for lead generation, because lead generation is the exact opposite of a recurring use case. Lead gen is a one-time short interaction that you have with your customers. They land on your website, they want your services, they fill out the lead gen form, and then they leave. There's no sense in taking that short one-time interaction and moving it all the way into a messaging app where that chat is going to stay in the customer's chat list forever. It's odd for customers. They're not used to doing that. They're not used to being taken to Messenger or Viber or Line to complete a lead generation process. In some cases, especially if you're using some of the less popular messaging apps, there's a possibility, albeit slight, that they don't actually have the messaging. They don't have an account in the messaging app. So you'd get stuck in an awkward position. And then, of course, there's the discovery issue, which is that lead gen discovery happens on the web. It doesn't happen in these apps. People aren't going to Messenger to look for lawyers. They're not going to Messenger to look for doctors or mortgage brokers. They're going to Google. They're opening up their Chrome. They're opening up the Google app, or they're on their laptops. They're opening up Safari. They're opening up Chrome. They're opening up Edge, and they're Googling these services to find where they are. And when they Google them, the results that come up are in the web. They click on those links and they expect to be taken to a website, or they expect to be taken to a landing page, and they want to finish the lead generation process over there. Transferring them over to Messenger, transferring them over elsewhere is an extra step that you don't need. Now, this isn't to say, again, that app-based chatbots are useless. They do have a use case, and they do have a place in marketing stacks. But since we're focused on lead generation over here, it doesn't make sense for us to delve any deeper into them. So with that, now that we're done talking about these sorts of chatbots that we are not interested in, we can jump over to the chatbots that we are interested in today. And those are web-based chatbots. Now, as you can see over here, web-based chatbots come in essentially two types. There are widget chatbots, and there are conversational landing pages. So let's dive in a little bit deeper into what each of these options are. Widget chatbots, as the name suggests, they're chatbots that live in tiny little neat widgets on the bottom right, or for that matter, in the bottom left corner of your page. You could have them in the top right or top left. That would just be a little weird, but it is possible. Let me show you guys an example of this. We have a widget chatbot on our website that some of you might have interacted with. And I will give you guys a peek at that chatbot on this webinar, just so that you guys know exactly what I am talking about. Oh, let me move my video out of the way. If I click on this GIF over here of Neil Patrick Harris waving to me, you can see a chatbot pops up in the bottom right corner of the screen. It has an interaction, and it helps us book sales calls with our prospects. But you'll notice that there is an X button, and if I click this X button, it drops me right back into the website. The website isn't going anywhere. It's not redirecting me to a page where the entire page is dominated by the chatbot. The chatbot just lives on the website. Now, widget chatbots are great for a lot of use cases. Widget chatbots are great for a lot of use cases. I like to think of them as a jack of all trades. They add a lot of much needed functionality to your websites. and they make your website, the process of browsing through your website a little more enjoyable, a little more easy. So you can do things like bot enhanced navigation. So that's where the chatbot gives the user suggestions about which pages they should go to, which resources they should check out on your page when they are browsing through your website. They can answer FAQs. They're great at doing that. So a person's scrolling through your website, they're reading up about your company, and they have an FAQ, the chatbot's there to help. And they're also good at lead generation. You can incorporate lead generation into your web widget chatbots. We have lead generation in our widget chatbot, and it does the job. It can do lead gen. But at the same time, with all of this added functionality comes a little bit of a downside. Just like they're a jack of all trades, but they are a master of none. Every additional functionality that you add to these widget chatbots, which is what really makes them shine, is also a weakness for them, because it means that they're not good at anything in a pure play format. So they're not good at doing just lead generation. In fact, the more functionality you add to your widget chatbots, each additional functionality you add is a distraction from the other functions of the chatbot. So if you just want to do pure play lead generation, if that's what you want to get, or as you'll find out, it'll depend on which sort of prospects you have. But if that's the goal that you were trying to achieve, then a widget chatbot isn't going to be good at that, because the additional functionality is going to be a distraction. Now with conversational landing pages, we have the exact opposite problem, right? So conversational landing pages are essentially chatbots which dominate the entire page. They are HTML, just like with widget chatbots, they're HTML, CSS, and JavaScript under the hood. And they are a landing page in that you click on, say, a Google ad, you click on a Facebook ad, you land on a page where the only thing on the page, as you can see on the right of here, is a chatbot. There's nothing else. You can't scroll through folds to read things. You don't see images. The chatbot is there front and center. And we can actually open this up. I think. Let's open this up to show you guys what it looks like. This is a conversational landing page that we created in one of our previous webinars, I believe. And essentially, as you can see, there's nothing else on the page, just the chat interaction. It generates leads for Quicken Loans, hypothetically. This is just a demo. Now, as you might imagine, since these conversational landing pages are essentially the exact opposite of a widget chatbot, just waiting for my slides to load up over here. Since conversational landing pages are the exact opposite of a widget chatbot, they essentially function in the exact opposite way in terms of their pros and cons. So in terms of what they're good at the pure play stuff. So if you want to do just lead gen, conversational landing page is perfect for that. You can add some FAQs in there. We've done webinars where we showed you how you can add FAQs into your conversational landing pages. But generally speaking, they are a pure play solution. They will do lead generation really well. They'll do they might add some FAQs to add functionality to that lead generation and make that lead generation go really well as well. In terms of what they're not good at, pretty much anything else. Since they are a standalone solution, you're not doing the bot enhanced navigation. You don't have any of those bells and whistles. It's not going to be something that enhances your browsing experience on an existing web page. It's the web page in and of itself, and you won't get the added functionality of having that web page. You won't get the folds that you can scroll through. You won't get the images to look at, and the chatbot doesn't serve the function of navigating all of those things. It actually serves the function of being those things. Now, the natural next question is, which of these should you choose? And honestly, that's a trick question, because it really depends on your context. Now, the way you can understand what context applies to which type of chatbot really depends on who your prospects are. And the way we like to put it is, you need to think like your prospects to figure out what your context is. And there are really two questions that you need to think about. The first is, what is your prospect's awareness level about your company and service? How much of an expert are they in the in your industry? How much of an expert are they in the about your company? And the second question you need to ask yourself is, this is a little bit of a typo over here, but what is their, how intent are they, actually there is, how intent are they to buy your product? So how close are they to hitting that purchase button, to generating that lead? Whatever it is that they need to take to take action to get to the next stage of the buyer journey, how close are they to doing that? And the reason I have that bolded over here is because we've actually covered the answer to the first question in a previous webinar. You guys should definitely check out the recording of that. We're not going to delve into this too much over here, but I'll give you guys a quick recap. Essentially, when you're thinking about the awareness level about your company or service in your prospects, you can divide prospects up into high information and low information prospects. We like to call them curators if they're high information, and consumers if they're low information. High information prospects generally don't like chatbots altogether, whether it's a website widget or a conversational landing page. They're not going to like that as a way to get information, because they want everything front and center. They want it all dumped out there in a traditional landing page format so they can make comparisons. Low information prospects, on the other hand, appreciate the conversational experience because they're not quite sure about they find the service that they're buying a little bit intimidating, even if they've done their research on it. So for example, think about people who are hiring a lawyer. Most people who hire a lawyer, average people, they aren't legal experts themselves. They don't know much about the law. And the act of hiring a lawyer is a pretty big step to take. So it might be intimidating for them. And for low information prospects, they do like having the conversational experience because it makes them feel reassured about their process. Now, within this low information group of people, within this group of consumers, you are going to have to make a choice about whether to use a widget chatbot or a conversational landing page. And that's where the second question comes into play. So how intent are they on buying your product? I should say on buying your product. There is a typo in there. Again, you can simplistically, crudely divide your prospects up into two types. They can either be high intent, so they love your particular company, or they really, really need your product or service, so they want to skip right to the buying process. They want to get right to the lead gen, they want to get right to the buy button. Think about situations like, for example, you're hiring a lawyer for something. You need a lawyer probably in an emergency situation. Something sudden has come up in your life. You want to get right on that. It's not like doing research about lawyers is going to help you much because they all look the same. You just want to get right to that consultation. You want to speak to someone as quickly as possible. Another example is auto shops. So we have a bunch of people on the TARS platform who have used their chatbots to generate leads for their auto shop. And you can think about it in the sense like your windshield breaks, you absolutely need that windshield fixed. So you're trying to look for someone who can fix it immediately. You want to skip straight to the buying process. Maybe you want to know a couple of details like pricing, timings, things like that, but that can be done through a set of FAQs. You basically just want to get straight to the buying process because it's urgent that you get your windshield fixed. Now, on the other end of the spectrum are low intent prospects. Now, low intent prospects can be of many types. They can be people who are just completely uninterested in your product. We have no idea why they're looking for it. They can be people like me. I Google search a lot of products that I'm not going to buy. I'm very low intent, just for the purposes of doing research for my job. So I'll look up mortgage. I'll click on mortgage landing pages just to see what mortgage companies are doing in the landing page space. I'm definitely low intent because I'm not looking for a mortgage. The low intent prospects that we do care about, though, are the people who will eventually become high intent prospects. It's just that they're not at that point yet. You can think about people who are just browsing right now. Maybe they're just starting out with the mortgage buying process. They're not ready to fill out a 1003 just yet, but they want to dip their toes in the waters. They want to see what's out there. They want to see what sorts of companies are there. Maybe they're sitting on the bus, they're sitting on the train, they're goofing off at work, and they want something to do. They think to themselves, oh, I'm eventually going to buy a house. I'm soon going to buy a house. They look up mortgages and they start browsing through them. I don't know who does that. Maybe some people do, but that's all I could think about as an example for a low intent customer. Now, jumping right into how these map out onto the types of chatbots that we have, low intent prospects tend to like web widgets a little better. They aren't quite ready to generate a lead yet. So you want to send them to a regular web page where they can just browse. Regular web pages, websites, even traditional landing pages are great for browsing. There are all these folds that are there with images on them, with text on them. You have testimonials. You have your branding plastered all over. The customizability of the GUI interface makes each website, each web page feel unique to that company, and that's great for people who are just browsing. They can scroll through, they can take their time, and then the web widget chatbot essentially serves to make that browsing experience more pleasant. It can essentially fast travel you to different destinations on the website through that bot enhanced navigation that I was talking about. It can add little pieces of information that you need to know through those FAQs that I was talking about. And when and if, in the slight case that you are ready, it can also capture your lead and add functionality to the website in that way. A conversational landing page equally would not work for a low intent prospect like this, because conversational landing pages are essentially, you can think about them as pure play lead generation plays or pure play lead generation solutions. It does not make sense to take someone who isn't going to generate a lead in that interaction straight to the lead generation flow. In fact, you actually want to do the opposite with high intent prospects, and we'll get to that. But if you took a low intent prospect who's just intent on browsing straight to the lead generation flow, they're probably going to close immediately. So as a result, using a conversational landing page doesn't really work for them. But a web widget, on the other hand, does, because it enhances their experience of browsing through the web pages that they're using. High intent prospects, on the other hand, like conversational landing pages, since they are raring to buy what you are offering. They want to get right down to the business and they want to generate a lead. All of those advantages of having that website, all of those nice things that I was talking about that are great for browsing. So wanting to scroll through the folds, wanting to look at the images, wanting to look at the testimonials, because you're nowhere close to buying yet. Those are all bad things for high intent prospects. These are people who want to get right down to business and generate a lead. They're ready to move on to the next step. And for them, conversational landing pages are ideal because they are pure play solutions. You can essentially think of them as a way to cut the line. So you don't have to go through this entire browsing process. You can just skip right to the lead generation process. And that's what conversational landing pages are good at. That's what we discussed in the previous slides. They're good at that sort of pure play solution. So high intent prospects generally do well on conversational landing pages. So now the natural next question is, how do you know which prospects you have on hand in your marketing stack? Now this is going to really depend on your product. It's going to depend on the sorts of prospects that you have. We're actually going to close out on this topic and move on to the Q&As after this. But at this point, you know that high intent prospects, they like conversational landing pages. Low intent prospects, they like widget chatbots. Which ones do you have? Honestly, you probably have both in your marketing stack. It really depends on where in your marketing stack they are. That's going to define how high intent or low intent they are. So I compiled a set. It's going to take a lot of like assessment on your part to figure out where they are. But I compiled a set of common situations that might arise in your marketing operations to give you a sense of who's high intent and who's low intent. If people are coming from an ad campaign, so if you're running Google ads, if you're running Facebook ads, they are probably high intent prospects and you want to send them to a conversational landing page. Presumably you are bidding on keywords. The good keywords to always bid on are high. They're called high intent keywords. It's situations where you want to It's situations where you want to, or the prospect is ready to move on to the next step. So if someone looks up free mortgage consultation, there's a good chance that that prospect wants a free mortgage consultation. So you can send them to a conversational landing page that's going to help them set up that free mortgage consultation. They don't need to browse through the website. And if they do have any basic questions, the FAQs are there for that purpose in the conversational landing page. So ad campaigns, especially if you're bidding on high intent keywords, are probably going to be are probably going to give you high intent prospects. There are some people who run ad campaigns as a brand building exercise, generally bigger companies who have the money to spare. For them, maybe a web widget would work, but generally speaking, if you're a small to mid-sized company, small to mid-sized marketing operation, you're generally trying to bid on high intent keywords, so you have high intent prospects, conversational landing pages make sense. If people are coming from your referral networks, now this is particularly salient in industries, again, like mortgage, where you have referral partners like real estate agents, CPAs, insurance brokers. If you have referral agents and they're sending people your way, they're probably high intent. They've already spoken to someone and they've essentially gotten pre-qualified as a lead, not for the loan. They've gotten pre-qualified as a lead, and they're ready to move on to the next step. And that's why they were sent to you. There's no sense in showing them your entire website. They already trust you because their CPA, their real estate agent has recommended you to them. Just take them directly to the chatbot. They're high intent. Take them to that conversational landing page and get their lead information from them as quickly as possible. High intent prospects again. Organic search is where it gets a little bit tricky, and this is where web widgets come into play. I was thinking about this last night. I was looking back in my SEO notes, and the way I can think about it is there are information seeking keywords that people are looking for. So for example, when people are doing research, how to choose a good mortgage, how to choose a good lawyer, how to figure out whether a lawyer is good or not, how to figure out whether a healthcare provider is good or not. Those are information seeking keywords. They don't indicate that the prospect is going to buy anything immediately. They indicate that the prospect's looking for more information. In situations like that, they're probably low intent. They're probably not as close to buying as you'd like them to be, to dump them straight into the chatbot, dump them straight into that conversational landing page. You're going to assume they're low intent. You're going to take them to a website and you're going to have a widget chatbot to enhance their experience. On the other side of the this of the organic spectrum, if you're thinking about like long tail keywords, they're super specific, and in a lot of cases, those super specific keywords have to do with super specific requirements that a prospect has, and if they've given that much thought into their requirements, they might be high intent. In fact, there's a good chance they are. If they're looking up best mortgage rates or mortgage calculator in this particular area for FHA loans or for VA loans, they're probably going to be high intent. They've clearly given this some amount of thought. They clearly know a little bit of at least about the industry, about the services that you're offering. Even if they might not be experts in the field, they might not be high information, but they might be high intent. They're probably going to be high intent, and you want to direct them to a conversational landing page, probably. Now, generally speaking, you might have noticed a little bit of a theme in all of this. It really comes down to feel. So the best suggestion I can give to you guys is map out your marketing stack, map out your buyer journeys. Think about all of the channels people are coming through and make an assessment about whether the prospects coming through that channel are generally high intent or low intent. Think about what their state of mind is. In fact, if you already have people in your funnel who you're comfortable talking with, you can even ask them a couple of questions to figure out what they were when they came to your website, or your webpage. But try to get into their mind, do exactly what I did over here, try to figure out what's their state of mind and use that to inform whether you think they're high intent or low intent. And that's going to really define whether you go with a conversational landing page or a website widget. And that's pretty much it in terms of the best practices that we have to offer you guys. Right now, I'm going to open up the floor for questions. And actually, you know what I might do is I might jump off of this slide deck and show you guys, especially the people who are already TARS users on this webinar, how you can implement each of these deployment methods with your TARS chatbot. And while I'm doing that, you guys are free to drop questions into the Q&A option for into the Q&A option of Zoom, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. If you don't have any questions, that's perfectly fine. I will not be too hurt about that. And we can end the session right there. So this is the conversational landing page that we had. If I jump into the admin section, so the back end of it, let's move the video over to the right over here. Oh, got a bit of a sticky mouse here. If you select the distribute section on the left side of the screen, it's going to drop you into a screen that looks like this. Now on the left over here in this menu, you can choose a bunch of different ways to deploy your chatbot. Let's get done with the most niche way to deploy your chatbot first, on domain deployment. Essentially what this is usually the chatbots are hosted on the TARS domain, and you can use them in your websites as a widget, or you can use them in conversational landing pages by just dropping the link directly. We'll get into that in just a minute. But if you want to move that chatbot over to your domain, to your website, to your domain, you can use the on-domain deployment option for that. It might be a little bit technical. If you aren't particularly proficient in web development, you can reach out to us on Intercom, and our support team will be more than happy to help you with this if this is the direction you're going for. Now, getting back to the two main deployment options that we discussed in this webinar. First is the chatbot widget. Over here, you jump in, you can see this little snippet of code in your chatbot. Essentially, what you want to do is you want to go right before the close of the body tag in your website, and you want to drop this piece of code in there. We're getting some questions right now. I might be able to jump into the TARS website actually and show you guys where you can drop this into your code in a WordPress website at the very least in just a minute. But essentially, you take this, you drop it at the end of the body tag of your website, and then essentially what happens is this widget over here will pop up in the bottom right of the screen, and it will help prospects navigate your website. Similarly, chatbot URL and link, it just gives you the link to the chatbot, and it opens up. When you open up that link in a new tab, it essentially opens up the way that we saw. You can take this link and drop it into your ad campaigns as the landing page, and then when people click on your ads, they will drop directly on to your chatbot, just like this over here. So that's pretty much the rundown. We're getting a bunch of questions, so let's get right into those. Can you use chatbots for the buying process? Yeah, generally, I'm not quite sure if I fully understand what you mean by the buying process, but all of these use cases that we're talking about, lead generation, we view as a part of the buyer journey. We generally do think of chatbots in the context of buying, but more for services where lead gen is the first step of the process, and it really serves to like kickstart that buying process. I don't know if that answers your question, Chris. Let me know if you have any follow-ups. Buying process equals purchase. Okay, so when people are all the way ready to purchase. Generally, it depends on how it depends on your industry. For example, think about mortgage. You're generating a lead. After you generate a lead, you're probably going to qualify them, and then they're going to fill out a 1003 form, and then submit that to the lender. Now, that technically is the purchasing process. It is a form, and we've seen chatbots be relatively successful in replacing at least a mini 1003 to get a lot of the details of the 1003, but not all of them. Generally speaking, you can think of chatbot as a replacement for a form. So wherever in the buyer journey you can use a form, a chatbot's a good option for that. Recently renewed DMV license plates using a chatbot. Fun. It's funny that you ask that. I presume that you are, so Chris is saying that he recently renewed his license plate at the DMV using a chatbot. Funny you should say that. I'm not quite sure which state you live in, but the DMV in Montana actually uses our chatbots, or chatbots made by our sister company, Sky Civic, to provide a lot of their services. Let me show you what that looks like over here. dojmt.gov/driving. Charlotte, North Carolina. That's interesting. I'll pass that along to Levi from our team, who deals primarily with government. But over here on the Montana website, they are essentially using chatbots to provide a lot of their services, to deliver a lot of their their information. I don't know if they actually have the purchasing process down in the chatbot, but they do everything up to that point. And it works out really well for them. It's actually helped them win a couple of awards, as you can see over here, and it's helped them boost their state's digital score. So to answer your question really simply, can you use chatbots for the buying process? Absolutely, you definitely can. Moving on to the rest of the Q&As. How about conversational landing pages, which conditionally shows a traditional FAQ content area on a desktop and a chatbot on mobile? This is an option that you can go for. Some of our customers do use a more traditional web page with a widget on their their desktop ads, for example, and then if a prospect clicks on their ad on mobile, they direct them to a chatbot. It's an all right approach to take. Chatbots are particularly good on phones, so it makes sense why people want to use them, particularly for their mobile ads. But I don't fully understand what the point would be of creating a web page which has FAQs on it, and then having a chatbot widget to do the lead gen, because you can just incorporate the FAQs into the chatbot itself and make it a conversational landing page, keep it focused, and keep people on the engaging user interface of a chatbot. Now, if you were adding more than FAQs, if you were adding testimonials, if you were adding, the regular messaging that you have on a website for people to browse, then it might make more sense to include that into your as a website and with a widget on it. Now I see that you've said that you mean an FAQ search page content, not just a list. I presume. Okay, so you're saying it's two different ways to navigate. I presume that means that you just have like a really long list of FAQs that you can search. I'm not quite sure. You probably could do that, honestly. I'm not quite sure what the user experience on that would be like, or what the quality of user experience would be like on that. I can't imagine, personally speaking, if I landed on a page which was just an FAQ search page, I don't quite know how I'd react to that. I'd either want to see more information on the page, or I would want to maybe just be in a chatbot where the chatbot's giving me some information, or it's telling me how to interact with it. Hope that answers your question. Moving on to the next question. Is there any text or content limitations on the bot window for users to enter? I presume you mean bot window over here, Suresh. In terms of text or content limitations, there is validation that most bot platforms have. So for example, in TARS, if I jump back over to the bot over here and I jump onto the make screen over here, for example, over here, we're collecting their full name. We've put full name verification on. Now it's going to ensure that the prospect is sharing their full name with you. That is a form of text limitation. You can think about it in that sense. If I scroll all the way down over here to email ID, now over here we have email limitation or email validation. It's going to make sure that they're sharing an email with you. In terms of the length of the content, which is what I think you're asking about, as far as I understand it, there is no limitation on the length of. There's no limitation on the length of the of the text that a prospect can share with you over a chatbot, unless the bot platform that you're using has enabled it. We have not done so in ours, I believe. Yeah. I'm seeing now that Chris's PC died. I don't know if you heard my answer, Chris. Let me open up this link that you sent me from the North Carolina DOT. Loading up your experience. Continue to my. Okay, so you need to log in for this, which I don't want to do at this moment, but it seems like a pretty cool experience. I don't know if you were still on the call when I showed this to you, but we've actually worked with the Montana DMV to essentially revamp their entire digital experience using a chatbot. As you can see, the chatbot is front and center, and they distribute pretty much all of their information about their services on their website through a chatbot. The chatbot's name is Ben. So I mentioned earlier in the webinar, Bot Enhanced Navigation. This is actually where we got the term from. Levi, who's a founder over at Sky Civic, our sister company, they managed this chatbot. They created this chatbot, and it's been doing a pretty great job for the state of Montana. They've actually won a couple of awards for this chatbot, and they've improved their state's digital competence score essentially using this chatbot. It's got a lot of good ratings. Using chatbots for DMVs is always a great use case. Over here, for example, for the Real ID campaign, they've seen some of the highest rates of adoption of Real ID because they've used a conversational website powered by a chatbot built on our platform to essentially boost their engagement. And one of the cool features over here, it doesn't necessarily go directly into the purchasing step of the process, but what it does do is it helps you calculate your fee and tell you what documents you need to bring into the DMV to finish the process up. And that's just because Montana doesn't possibly have that's because Montana doesn't possibly have the functionality to do that purchase online. You're not leaving Charlotte, North Carolina. Great to hear. I just wanted to show you this to give you a sense that it is possible to use a chatbot to enhance your purchasing process, especially for a use case like the DMV. And if you can use it to fix a process in the DMV, I mean, you can use it to fix a process in any other industry, because let's face it, the DMV is the worst. We're getting a question over here from Vineet from the TARS Tech team, who is, before you guys sign off, before the rest of you guys sign off, we have 2 more webinars this week. Vineet is going to be on both of them. He heads up the product team at TARS, and he's a co-founder of TARS. We're going to be building a Jiffy chatbot on Wednesday. Definitely go sign up for that. We love GIFs at TARS if you've read our newsletters. And we're going to essentially show you how you can hook up your chatbot to the Jiffy API to pull in GIFs into your lead gen flow dynamically. You can do some really cool stuff with that. We'll get into that on Wednesday. And then on Friday, we're going to sit down and talk a little bit about the features that are coming to the TARS Builder this spring. So if you're interested in learning about what awesome stuff you can expect to come out in the next couple of months, if you're working from home and you want to experiment with this sort of stuff, definitely come for that session, because you will learn about the sorts of stuff that we are building. Now, Vineet's question is, can your chatbot cure the coronavirus? And the answer is, unfortunately, no. I wish it could, but it can't. And so we're all in work from home now. I see that we're getting some more questions over here. Oh, no, it's just Vineet asking me whether the chatbot can cure coronavirus. The answer is unfortunately still no. It seems like we don't have any more questions in the Q&A section of this webinar. If you guys have any additional questions after this webinar and you want to have those answered, there are some options for you to get in touch with us. Hopefully my slides will load a little bit quicker than usual, but you can reach out to us on the number listed on the screen over here. More often than not, I mean, most times of the day, we will pick up and we'll help you with whatever question you have. You can reach out to me personally at this email address over here if you have any specific needs that you want me to address in particular, or you can go to our website, hellotars.com. We have a neat little chatbot over there. It's an appointment booking chatbot. If you've seen one of our previous webinars where we discuss what they are, and you can book an appointment with us. You can book a consultation with us. So let me actually exit this and jump over to our website to show you guys what that looks like. To go over to our website and you can interact with our widget chatbot in the bottom right corner of our screen. If it loads over here, Zoom always makes my computer go a lot slower than it actually is. Click on Neil Patrick Harris's face. It'll drop you into the lead generation flow, and you can book a consultation with us. The other option that you have is to click back and go back into the builder is if you're already signed up for the TARS platform and you have a question while you are building your chatbot, click on the intercom widget in the bottom right of the screen. It'll connect you with one of our customer support representatives, and they will walk you through any issues that you are having with your chatbot that you need to be clarified. Thank you guys for joining us today. It was a pleasure answering all of your guys' questions and sharing some knowledge about chatbots. Join our webinars later this week as well. I look forward to seeing you guys there. Thank you.